I've got it pretty much all wired in now. One thing I shouldn't have done was I got these back wires here a little too close to the corner. They should have been out about another half an inch, well, an inch maybe. I need to cut some more wires. There we go. Check to see that the edges are all squared up. Don't get too worried about it because the that's why it's down. I was getting a little height. If you can see that we're even right in here, and that's even with adding an extra in there. So when you wire these guys up, there's a little bit of swing here and there. That some of this will come around when I drill. Let me drill a corner hole here. Have to re-drill that wire. Helps if you have them going the right direction. Okay, I've got my hole drilled down in here, and I want to stick in a bolt. Instead of a regular washer, we're going to use a fender washer. Where am I at here? Behind the net. And that's better able to grab those three corners and hold them in. So. Drill another hole up here. Stick a couple more bolts on the edge here. There. So that corner is wires. Okay. That corner's in. We'll do the other one off camera. Okay, everything's wired up. I've got one of the things you want to do too is as soon as you get the transom in, and it's bolted on the bottom, keeps it straight, but you need something, clamp in just a piece of scrap wood along there to keep the top of the transom panel from warping on you until you can get the rails in. I've also got my, back up here, I screw a 2x2 in. It's below the height for the rails. I may have to move that a rail. The rail shouldn't come down any below that height. I may have to take it out when the rails come in, but that sets the beam, and it's low enough on the inside too for the rails. And then up on the bow, another clamp on the bow panel here, and then this I stick in because people are invariably What'll happen if I don't have this board in here, the panel takes on a reverse curve, and people will go, I've told them, emailed them several times, please do not cut the panel, the top of the transom, or the bow panel, and make it narrower. That's just a function of tortured plywood, and then once we put the rails on, it will keep that from being bowed. So I will probably, I'm debating whether or not to do the jump stitching now, or add some, cut some rails, and then just clamp the rails to the outside to hold the arc of the rails. Hold that curve. And then I can go ahead and jump stitch and do the glassing and the tape on the inside and all that kind of stuff. So then I'll know that if I do the jump stitching first, it might be possible that I will, when I put the rails on, they'll pull on a joint that doesn't want to be pulled on. So I have the hull, as you can see, turned over. I wanted to give it another check, mainly on the edges, but I also wanted to show you the what the bottom looks like with the bolts and the wires. And I've gone around with my little speed wrench here and my lineman's pliers and tightened. I screwed the wires up. Very few times do I really ever turn the boat over. Some of them get to be just too heavy to manhandle until I get the interior finished. But this boat's small enough that I can flip over. And I wanted to show you what it looked like too, because I had a couple questions about why I use the bolts. And let me, we'll do a handheld walk around on this thing, because I want you to see, you know, when I was talking about the gap, maintaining this gap along here, I found on the first boat I ever built, and I wired it up. I just finished reading the Devlin, one of his first books on stitching glue, and so I wired the panels up on the nuthatch, the first boat, and I was constantly having to, every time I would move it around, the panels would slip over each other, and so I thought, you know, I don't know, you know, how you can get the hulls to stay in alignment until you get it epoxied in place. So I thought, well, I'll drill some holes and put some bolts in and see if that works. And it does. And it works very effectively, whether it's a hard angle or whether it's fairly flat. This depends on how much you tighten down on the nut on the back side to hold it in place. On those multi-chine boats like the Laura Bay and the OMP Pod and the Granville Bay, that would have been almost a nightmare to try to keep all those panels in alignment. But let me go ahead and I'm going to do a little sample. I'm going to do make it off camera, and then I'll show you when I get it done. But let's do a flyby, I guess you can call it. We'll start out in the corner. You can see how I use that fender washer. Sometimes I've taken them and I'll jam the fender washer into something where I can use a big bolt or a chisel or something in the middle to make it more cup-shaped, so it'll fit around the corners. But this has got enough in it. I think this one over here has a little bit more of a, you can see an arc to it, and it tends to hold them in better when they're bent like that. So, okay. So you can see the consistency of the seam along here. Doesn't really vary any. I'm really happy with it. I get down around to the dowel here, and we got another washer here, fender washer holding the ends in. And you can see where I had to redo. I had some. They're getting too close. They shouldn't be any closer than probably about 1.5 inches to the ends. There was one in behind here that I had to move out too. So, I mean, unless I build these things every day, I tend to forget. So, and you got the ones on the vertical seams. And you're just able to use the one bolt on the middle seam, and in the corners, and then down. And I don't know if you can come in here. You can see, you know, the gaps. Get a little bit of gap in here, but the epoxy covers all of that stuff up, so never worry. And then I got a miscut here. I think that was from the jigsaw, not Jazamasan. Get over my feet here. And in the back side, I still need to tighten down these bolts. Hold on a second. We'll come back. Okay, yeah, I got my little speed wrench out so I can give these guys another little turn. Doesn't have to be much. Just snug them up. And then come along with your Workman's plier and take any of the slack out of it. Those are pretty much all tightened up, okay. If there's any more, I'll do them later. So we got the other side of the transom. And then down here, I got, you can see just, now I get back here, somebody will focus. I got just a little bit of extra height on the transom panel, and that's what you want. You don't want it the other way around where the transom is up in here someplace, because then you got to taper this down. And if it's a severe amount, I mean, this is where I had added at a 1/4 inch to the basic and another 1/4 inch. So this is even taller than what I originally had in the plans. So it would have looked really, if I hadn't built it. So always check me. You know, if you get a set that I haven't built, always check these ends to make certain that they're right on. Otherwise, you'll be squinty puckered. Okay. And I still have you can see the clamps down there. The stiffener is inside of them, and the boat's kind of sitting on the clamps right now. So, okay, there's the walk around. Let me go do some tightening of the last of the nuts and bolts, and we'll come back with my little demo. Okay, I got a sample I made up here, and it's got the bevels in it, and let's see in here. You can see how it'll wiggle around and jump around, and it can either, depending on how I have the wire here, it can either jump over or jump up on me. But once I stick this bolt in here, get in there. Let's come back. Didn't drop the nut as it rolls across the floor. I tested this thing to be certain it was going to be a fast acting one. But once this bolt, I don't know. Let me see if I can zoom in here. You can see moving around there. But once I tighten this bolt down, it can't move. It can move a little bit this way, but that bolt, I think I might have to do this over again. But once you get that nut in there, it can't move around at all. I don't know if that's an explanation or not. You're just going to have to trust me on that. But if it wasn't for these nuts and bolts, this edge along in here, I would be constantly having to pound it up or down, because every time this thing moves without these bolts along, especially this curvature part, they're going to be just jumping like this on me, and I'd never be able to. I'd have to, you know, as soon as I put the Gel Magic jump stitch in, I'd have to go around for probably half an hour feeling the seams just to make certain that they didn't jump, because they will. I mean, you think you've got it pounded in place, everything is square, you walk away and they just slide off. So, explanation on that. We'll wrap this up. All the wires are tightened down. I also did something else too, is I took my my needle nose pliers and I twisted the ends of all the wires over, so they're not going to be poking me. So luckily I think I only had one wound on this hole. You get on those multi-chine holes and you're working your way up, or you're tightening, that's when you later, after you're getting everything all tightened up and you're sticking your arms, it's like, you know, you're petting cacti. So we'll end this. It's Christmas Day. I'm going to go and make myself a turkey sandwich and edit this, and hopefully I'll get it out today. If not, it'll be out tomorrow. So we'll see you next time when we roll this over, and I'm still debating whether or not to put the rails on first, or at least clamp them in place and then do the jump stitch, or do the jump stitch and then put the rails on. So we'll see when we get there. Merry Christmas.